The Sparkly Sash. Contents: Christmas Angels, Jack Frost's Revenge, The Glitter Trail, Showtime, Seizing the Sash. Christmas Angels. I can't believe that we're really going to meet Serena, Emilia, and Lexi, Kirsty Tate said for the 100th time that day. Neither can I, agreed her best friend Rachel Walker. Kirsty squeezed Rachel's hand as they stood in the entrance to their hotel suite with their parents. The girls had won a competition to meet their favorite girl group, the Angels. They were staying overnight in the Grand Hotel. They were going to get a makeover from the band's stylists, help the band turn on the city's Christmas lights, and go to the Angels' Christmas charity concert tomorrow night. This is going to be almost as exciting as one of our fairy adventures, Kirsty whispered to her best friend. No one else knew that they had a special friendship with the King and Queen of Fairyland. Kirsty and Rachel had gone on many adventures with the fairies as they tried to stop Jack Frost and his goblins from making mischief. This hotel reminds me of the palace in Fairyland, said Rachel, looking around their room with wide eyes. It's so beautiful. Oh, Rachel, look, cried Kirsty. On a table in the corner of their room was the largest bunch of flowers the girls had ever seen, with a handwritten card on top. Dear Kirsty and Rachel, we hope you have a fun stay. We are really looking forward to meeting you later today. Serena, Emilia, and Lexi, the Angels. XXX. While their parents unpacked, Kirsty and Rachel explored the enormous hotel suite. Their favorite room was the lounge. It was covered with red and gold Christmas decorations. In the middle of the room was a huge Christmas tree that filled their noses with the scent of pine. Oh, Kirsty, look at the tiny bells hanging from the branches, cried Rachel. As she spoke, the trees seemed to shiver and their little bells tinkled. A burst of gold glitter cascaded down from the angel on top of the tree like a sparkling waterfall. When the whirl of glitter stopped, the girls saw a beautiful fairy sitting on a piece of red tinsel, waving at them. Hello, she said in a musical voice. I'm Destiny, the rock star fairy. It's wonderful to meet you, exclaimed Kirsty. Thank you, said Destiny with a dazzling smile. It's great to meet you both, too. I've heard so much about you from King Oberon and Queen Titania. What are you doing in the city? Rachel asked. We're here because we won a contest to meet the Angels. I know all about the competition, Destiny said. That's why I'm here, too. What do you mean? asked Rachel. I need your help, Destiny said, her smile fading. I look after all those rock stars in the human world, and I'm a singer in Fairyland, too. Every year we have a big Christmas concert in Fairyland. There's music and dancing and spectacular performances from some of the fairies. At the end, I always do a rock show, but now we may have to cancel the whole concert. Oh no, cried the girls. Why? Jack Frost decided that he wanted to perform the big closing number with his group, Destiny exclaimed. Frosty and his goblicious band, cried Rachel. They're terrible. Rachel remembered how Jack Frost and his band had once tried to win the National Talent Competition. They'd stolen the music fairies' magical musical instruments so that nobody could play their music correctly, as Van would sound the best. The girls and the music fairies had managed to stop him just in time. Jack Frost still thinks that he's the best singer in all of Fairyland, Destiny said. He demanded top billing in the show. What did you do? Asked Kirsty. We let him audition, said Destiny. Their singing and the band's playing was so awful that we just couldn't say yes. I told him to practice an audition again next year, but he lost his temper. He said that if he couldn't be the star of the show, he'd get rid of all rock music entirely. Jack Frost's Revenge. Rachel and Kirsty could hardly believe their ears. How could Jack Frost get rid of all rock music? Kirsty said. Tiny's shoulders sagged. I have 3 magic objects that are very important to Fairyland and to the human world, she said. The sparkly sash protects rock stars' costumes. The harmony key protects their music. And the magic microphone ensures that the sound and lightning systems work smoothly. But Jack Frost has stolen all 3 magical objects, Tiny sighed. He's instructed his goblins to hide them here in the city in order to ruin our Fairyland concert. He also wants to make trouble for the Angels Christmas charity concert at the same time, since they're the most popular rock group in the country. So while the magic objects are missing, things are going to go wrong for music groups in the human world? Rachel asked. Tiny nodded sadly. We can't let the charity concert be ruined, said Kirsty in a determined voice. We have to get the magic objects back before tomorrow night. That means you'll help me? Asked Tiny. Of course, said Rachel and Kirsty together. I hoped you were going to say that, said Tiny with a big smile. When I heard that you won the contest, I realized that you would be in exactly the right place to help me. What do you want us to do? Asked Rachel eagerly. For now, just stay alert, said Tiny. The goblins are somewhere in the city, and they're sure to cause trouble sooner or later. Won't let those awful goblins get away with their plans, Rachel declared. Remember, keep a close eye on the angels, Tiny added. Jack Frost definitely wants to ruin things for them. The girls nodded, and Tiny disappeared with another burst of gold glitter. Before the girls could speak, Mrs. Tate came in to say that it was time to go to the stadium and meet the angels. At that moment, all other thoughts flew out of Rachel's and Kirsty's minds. They were about to meet their favorite rock stars. Mrs. Walker and Mrs. Tate rode in the limos with Rachel and Kirsty, while their dads stayed behind at the hotel. When they reached the stadium, they went to the backstage door. There they were met by a man with a clipboard and a headset, who smiled and waved. Welcome to the Supersonic Stadium, he said. I'm here to take you to meet the angels. He led the girls and their moms through the backstage door and down a long hallway lined with dressing rooms. The last door had a gold star with 2 familiar names printed on it. When the girls pushed open the door, they heard a trial of excited squeals. All 3 of the angels grinned and rushed over to hug them. The members of the band were even prettier in real life than they looked on TV. Emilia was tall and graceful, with big green eyes and straight blonde hair that swished around her face. She was wearing a pair of blue skin jeans and a dark red sweater over a sparkling camisole. Serena had silky black hair and beautiful brown eyes. She was wearing teal leggings and a fitted shirt in swirling blues and browns, with a wide belt that sat loosely on her hips. Lexi's sparkling blue eyes were full of fun. She had curly strawberry blonde hair that flowed down her back, and she was wearing a green dress with knee-high tan boots. Welcome, cried Amelia. Congratulations on winning the contest, said Serena with a smile. It's great to meet you, Lexi added, her ringlets bouncing. Mrs. Tate and Mrs. Walker left to get a cup of coffee, and the angels told Rachel and Kirsty their plan for the day. We're going to get star treatment from our own stylists, Amelia began. I'll give you a tour around the stadium," Serena added. "But first, we're going to teach you the dance routine for our brand new song," Lexi finished eagerly. The Glitter Trail. Half an hour later, Rachel and Kirsty were giggling with the angels like old friends as they learned the dance steps. "We did it," Rachel cheered at last. "We got all the way through with no mistakes." They hugged as the door opened and a man and woman walked in. "Girls, this is Rich and Charlotte, our stylist and our makeup artists," said Emilia. "Rich can tell what colors and styles look good on you, and Charlotte will do your makeup." "Makeup should be simple and pretty," Charlotte said, pulling out a tube of sparkling lip gloss and a pot of silvery glitter. The girls sat down in front of the mirror as Charlotte dabbed glitter on their cheeks and eyelids. Rich talked about the colors and styles that would be flattering on them. The angels watched and chatted happily. When Charlotte was done, the girls went over to look at themselves in the full-length mirror on the back of the dressing room door. Suddenly, Emilia's cell phone started to ring. As soon as she answered it, her face fell. "But this could ruin the whole show," she cried. Rachel and Kirsty exchanged worried glances. "That was our agent, Robin," Emilia said as she hung up. "The truck carrying our costumes is missing. Robin can't reach the driver on his cell phone, and she has no idea where he is." "Without the costumes, the show will be really boring," Lexi cried. "That's terrible," Kirsty said to Rachel. "This must have happened because Jack Frost has this tiny sash," Rachel murmured. Just then, Rachel and Kirsty heard the sound of running footsteps in the hallway and a familiar squawking giggle. "That sounds like goblins," Kirsty whispered arrogantly to Rachel, "that lifted the sparkly sash with them." Rich, Charlotte, and the angels were all talking at once, and they weren't paying attention to the girls. It's a perfect chance to escape. "Let's go see if we can find the goblins while they're busy talking," Rachel whispered. The girls slipped out of the dressing room. Just down the hallway, a door was standing wide open. "Looks like a storage room," said Kirsty, stepping inside. "Oh, no!" The girls stared in horror. The room was a complete mess. Containers of face powder had been dumped out, dusting everything in a fine layer of pinks and bronzes. Empty tubes of cream eyeshadow littered the floor, and the shimmering costumes on the clothes rack were smeared with purple, blue, and gold. Face glitter was rubbed on the walls and ground into the carpet. "Look at this," said Rachel. Someone had used red lipstick to draw a picture of Jack Frost on the wall with his tongue sticking out. "This is definitely the work of the goblins," said Kirsty angrily. Suddenly, Rachel grabbed Kirsty's arm. "I think something's still in here," she hissed, pointing into the far corner. A long silver boot was wiggling around on the floor. It was much too small to hide a goblin. Something was definitely inside it. "What is it?" cried Kirsty, stepping backward. The boot shook again, and a jet of gold glitter shot out of the top. And this tiny appeared right in front of Rachel and Kirsty. "Hi, girls," said the little fairy, looking dismayed by the mess in the room. "What happened here?" "It's the goblins," said Kirsty. "They're in the stadium, and the truck full of the angels' costumes has disappeared." "I need to find the goblins quickly," said Miss Tiny with a frown. "They must have my sparkly sash." She waved her wand, and there was a flurry of magic sparkles. When they cleared, the room was clean and tidy again. "Let's go find the sparkly sash before the goblins cause any more trouble," Miss Tiny said. She tucked herself into Kirsty's pocket, and the girls hurried out into the hallway. "Look," cried Rachel, pointing at a trail of messy footprints on the floor. These should lead us straight to the goblins. They followed the footprints along the hallway and through 3 sets of double doors. Last, they arrived at the back of the main stage. Wires and cords trailed across the floor, and panels of switches were everywhere. Temporary steps led up to an archway, which was the entrance to the stage. "Listen," said Rachel softly. There were horrible screeching sounds coming from the stage. On tiptoe, Kirsty made her way up the steps, motioning for Rachel to follow her. Slowly, they crept up the stairs and peered down at the stage. Transparent steps led down to the main stage area, which was crowded with large floodlights, tall microphone stands, and 5 goblins prancing around the stage. Showtime! Kirsty and Rachel had to clap their hands over their mouths to stop themselves from laughing out loud. The goblins had raided the storage closet and tried to dress up like rock stars. One goblin had a lime green feather boa wrapped around his body. Another goblin was wearing a thick layer of bright pink blush and had scarlet lipstick smeared all around his mouth. Other goblins were wearing silky shirts and sparkling shorts. One of them was twirling a long clip-on hair extension that he had attached to his bony head. They were singing into microphones, or trying to sing. "That's the worst noise I've ever heard," cried Miss Tiny, putting her hands over her ears. "Thank goodness the microphones aren't turned on." "Look," Kirsty exclaimed. The smallest goblin had something wrapped around his waist, something long and gold that shimmered and glimmered in the stage lights. "It's the sparkly sash," Miss Tiny exclaimed. "How are we going to get away from the goblin?" Rachel asked. Suddenly, Kirsty smiled. "I've got an idea," she said. "Rachel, do you remember the dance routine that the angels taught us?" "I think so," Rachel said, nodding. "Let's go teach it to the goblins," Kirsty suggested, her eyes shining. While they were concentrating on the steps, Miss Tiny can take the sash. "That just might work," Rachel declared. They all have to face the same direction and stay in one place. Then Miss Tiny can fly up behind them without being seen. Rachel and Kirsty climbed down the steps and stood at the stage entrance. "Hi," called Kirsty. "You must be the backup dancers. We're going to show you the new routine." One of the goblins giggled and nudged the others. "They think we're humans," he whispered loudly. "Our awesome disguises have fooled them." The girls began to walk the goblins through the routine. They were very clumsy. Crash! They turned the wrong way and banged into each other. Bump! They stepped on each other's toes and hopped around squealing. Clang! They tripped over wires and knocked down all the microphone stands. In the middle of the chows, Miss Tiny fluttered up behind the smallest goblin. She pranced to the left and then to the right. The fairy flew closer and closer. Rachel and Kirsty both held their breath. Could Miss Tiny get the sash back before she was spotted? Seizing the sash. "Side together, side, and reach for the stars," Kirsty chanted. The goblin wearing the sparkly sash was contracting so hard his tongue was sticking out. He kept shaking his hips from side to side. Miss Tiny couldn't untie the sash. "Keep your hips nice and still," called Rachel. Miss Tiny gave Rachel a grateful wink and began to loosen the sparkly sash with her fingers. Slowly and gently, the little fairy slipped the sash away from the goblin's waist. At last, it fell into her hands, and she returned to its fairy size as she flitted away. Thank you, Kirsty called out to the goblins, edging toward the staircase. You have all done very well. Keep practicing. They ran up the steps. The smallest goblin gave a furious yell. My sash, he shrieked, pointing a bony finger at the girls. Thieves, they stole my sash. The girls froze on the staircase, and the tiny flew over to join them, carrying the precious sash. You are the thieves, she told the goblins. I'm going to return the sparkly sash to Fairyland where it belongs. We won't let you ruin the angels' Christmas concert, Rachel added bravely. Catch them, squawked the goblin wearing a bow. The goblins rushed toward the girls. Oh, no, you don't, the Tiny declared. She waved her wand, and a cloud of fairy dust surrounded the girls. As they blinked, they felt themselves becoming as small as Tiny. Fine, pretty wings appeared on their backs. Fluttering them delightfully, the girls rose into the air as the goblins charged at them from all directions. Thump! The goblins bumped into each other and fell to the ground, screeching with rage. They immediately got back up and sprang into the air, trying to reach the girls who were hovering just out of reach. Because their eyes were on the girls who weren't looking where they were going, they ran blindly into each other, yelling as they knocked each other down and stumbled over the lights and other equipment on stage. This Tiny clapped her hands to get the goblins' attention. You better go tell Jack Frost that you don't have the sash anymore, she said. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes when he hears that I have it back. The goblins looked sadly at each other and shuffled off toward the exit. Now I should clear up this mess, Miss Tiny said. With a wave of her wand and a little fairy magic, the stage was soon back to normal. Rachel, Curtsy, and Miss Tiny flew back to the hallway and into the storage room. Miss Tiny was still holding the precious sparkly sash. Thank you so much for your help, girls, Miss Tiny said, happily clutching the sash to her chest. I could never have gotten this back without you. They all hugged, and then Miss Tiny waved her wand again and returned Rachel and Kirsty to their human size. Are you going to take the sash back to Fairyland now? Asked Kirsty. Miss Tiny nodded. The sooner it's back in its rightful place, the better, she declared. Goodbye, girls. I'll see you again soon. Rachel and Kirsty waved as Miss Tiny disappeared in a whirl of sparkles. And Rachel squeezed Kirsty's hand. Come on, she said. Let's get back to the angels. In the dressing room, Rachel and Kirsty found the angels hugging and jumping around with excitement. Lexi saw the girls and rushed over to them. They found the truck, she squealed happily, dancing around the room. The driver's GPS sent him to a duck farm in the middle of the countryside. His truck broke down and he couldn't call us because his cell phone battery was dead. At the last minute, a tow truck drove past and rescued him. And his GPS started working again. Can you believe it? The costumes are all safe, said Emilia. So now we can relax and give you that tour of the stadium we promised. Come on, girls. They started out. Rachel and Kirsty shared a secret smile. The sash was back in Fairyland and costumes everywhere were safe. Now there are only 2 magic objects left to find. Isn't it amazing that the truck was found so quickly? Said Serena, linking arms with the girls as they walked into the hallway. Kirsty and Rachel looked at each other and giggled. It's just like magic, said Kirsty.